noches. Bienvenidos a este su Teatro La Tea. This is La Tea Remoto. And tonight we have a special guest, even though he's from the house, Miguel Valderrama. Good evening, Miguel. ¿Cómo estás?
Hola, Miguel. Good evening. Muy bien, gracias. Encantado de estar acá hablando contigo.
Gracias. This is the Tertulia of the Tocayos. We call Tocayos people with the same names. It's always very confusing in La Tea. Miguel, so we both turned, but if it's a light issue, Miguel takes care of it. And if it's any other kind of issue, I look out for it. So Miguel Valderrama is a lighting designer from Colombia originally, with extensive experience all over here in New York. And he landed in La Tea roughly a year ago, and he's made a huge difference on the quality of our productions, most notably El Muro, which was cut short by the pandemic, right in the middle of the production. Additionally, I feel very close to Miguel because we are both adjuncts at City University of New York, and I'm at Baruch, he's at City Tech. So we're constantly trading stories about this transition to online teaching that we've experimented. Miguel, dime una cosa. I'm from San Juan, Puerto Rico. Where are you from in Colombia?
I'm from Bogota. I'm from the capital.
Oh, okay. And you born and raised in Bogota? You went to school there?
I was born and raised, but I took a little break. I mean, not a little break. Actually, all my high school was in El Líbano, which is a small town in Colombia. It's like about 5 hours from Bogota, car driving. And that's where my mom is from. And, they have a really good technical schools there. So I was, able to go to her town and just do my whole high school there, technical high school.
Oh, interesting. And tell me something. I mean, did you have back in El Líbano, or was it more in Bogota? What was the theater scene? How do you get, I presume, fascinated or inducted into this world of the theater?
I was always curious about theater and performing arts in particular. I have to say that I did participate in a couple of productions in high school. I was maybe acting, I was maybe helping to get stuff ready. Not much of scenery, not much of lighting, because in Colombia, our theaters don't have that much equipment, but definitely something that we can play with. And the environment of theater was just something that caught up my attention a lot. I have to say, as professionally talking, working in theater wasn't much of what I did in Colombia. I just had a brief taste, because the Iberoamericano is a big festival in Bogota, so a lot of people go to the productions, they talk, they see things. So there's a good exposure of theater productions in Bogota, but I wasn't really working within the field.
But what age would you say? I mean, what age were you a teenager? Were you in college already? I mean, when did you see something? You might not know that you were going to go into theater, but something that really, is there a play? Is there something that you can pinpoint, or not really?
There was a Canadian play called El Invierno, the winter, in Teatro Colón, which is one of the most beautiful places, theater venues in Bogota. I was enchanted. I was enchanted by the effects. I was very, very into lighting as well, because there was a huge lighting component. I mean, the Teatro Colón is a huge space. So they set up the big plays there. So you can imagine how much like technicalities around that, a setup like that they had, and I was able to witness it. I was very, very into it. That was thanks to my auntie, that she took me, because going to theater in Colombia, when you go to these really nice venues, it's not a thing that everyone can do. It's a little bit expensive, but I had the chance. I enjoyed it, and I think that kind of caught a bug in me, and it wasn't right away, but I was always into being able to watch and admire, of course, what people do in theater. But also enjoy just to be part of a show, or just to be audience member, really.
No, but you pinpointed it, because there tends to be one moment where, again, one doesn't know, one cannot articulate, but that magic, that charm, and it can be in all the arts. I mean, it could be in architecture. You see a building, a magnificent play, a movie, a work of art, a painting. So So that's a beautiful story, a Canadian production in Colón, in Teatro Colón in Bogotá. Okay. And you were, how old did you say, roughly?
I'm gonna say I was 16, maybe
Okay,
17.
right, okay.
Yeah, I have to say I moved from Bogota to Lebanon back. I mean, from Lebanon back to Bogota because I was gonna go to the university. I was, you know, I was lucky enough to pass in the National University of Colombia. So I went to study industrial design, and this is where I am going to. Design was always that, it was something that I always wanted to do. Um, you know, it's half art, it's half technicality, it's a mix between those two. And I think when I was kind of like able to witness what lighting does in a theater space, I kind of like realized that those two worlds, artistic and technical, were merging in that discipline. So I really wanted to try it.
So then when you go to the Universidad Nacional de Colombia and you study design, do you feel that, I mean, you're talking about how they kind of complement each other. Do you feel that was a good background? I mean, like almost like when you go into, let's say, art, but if you have a humanities background, you get a little bit of history, a little bit of literature, a little bit of art history, you have something to work with, perhaps, or references to sort of delve into when you create. Do you feel that industrial design background sort of opens doors when you start going to something as specific as lighting? That's the...
Yes, and why? Because it's a complement. I went to a technical high school, which means that my technical background was pretty strong.
Right.
I knew about electricity. I knew about industrial, mechanical industrial, or automotor mechanicas. Technical drawing. I was also pretty proficient in technical drawing. So I had the background. And now the part of being an artist, I think it comes from you. Yes, as an artist, you can train yourself and become a better artist, I guess. But to me, the hardest part was to get the technical part down and then explore the artistic one, because I always thought that I wasn't just want to be satisfied playing with technicalities. I thought that I had a creativity mind in myself that I wanted to explore as well.
Okay, I wholeheartedly agree. I think there's like, you bring something and then you have to find something or look for something in terms of the technique. And especially with the equipment, I wanted to interject earlier when you were saying, well, in Latin America and in the Caribbean as well, sometimes there's a paucity of equipment and one arrives here. And if you look at even, you know, off-Broadway theaters, you're like, wow, you know, there's like, and then you go Broadway, forget about it. But I wanted to bring up the fact that when you walked into Latea, I remember you looked at the instruments and you're saying, well, they're old, but we can do something with them. So, you know, it wasn't such a jump, right? From Colombia to Latea, was it?
No, it wasn't.
Okay.
That's kind of that guy that you have inside you that just push you to maybe try to fix stuff that still can work. I love just getting old stuff to work, back to work. I think lighting equipment is the kind of equipment that if you treat it really well, it can last for years, hundreds of years, honestly, because some of the instruments are, 60 years old. But if you treat them pretty well and you do good maintenance, the lighting basics are the same. So you can keep your equipment pretty up to date. So when I came in, I saw that it's kind of like breathing history, right? It's like all this equipment that you were not familiarized with, and now you can start like going into and fixing things and learn by doing. That's the most important part.
But and I want to go into City Tech now because that's when you train specifically, and you're in this context of the United States, New York, this market. But now that you're talking about the instruments, about revamping, I perhaps want to broaden the focus and talk a little bit. You're also a community person. I know you're a resident of the Lower East Side. You have strong ties to a place like Umbrella House, which has been a hallmark of collective, grassroots, do-it-yourself, with a long lineage of Colombians putting in a lot of sweat equity, from the now defunct Mario Bustamante people like that really transformed this neighborhood from a derelict shell into some of the vibrant sort of life we have today, or we had prior to COVID. Let's hope we get it back. So I feel that that's a broader philosophical thing you bring to your practice of light designer, and especially to Latea. Can you talk a little bit about that neighborhood context?
Of course, Miguel. Well, I don't know if it's a magnet that you have or it's something that you magnetize, but people or the situations kind of come to your life in the same way that you're looking for them somehow. So you were talking about Umbrella House, a place that was abandoned for many years, Lower East Side Manhattan. If everyone heard stories about the 80s in the Lower East Side, as you witnessed it, it was pretty rough. But you were able to find these huge spaces that were not really reclaimed by anyone, that they were just there. And I love the fact that a lot of the artists came with that energy to try to move ahead from just seeing those spaces as a waste and actually activate those spaces. I think that's the kind of idea that happened at Umbrella House as well. And I was a latecomer, Miguel, to be honest. I wasn't the first one who opened the doors. I wasn't the first one to throw this garbage out, although I helped. When I got there, there was no heating. There was not really a bathroom in my apartment. I still had to go downstairs to take a community shower. I mean, to use a community bathroom. But more than that, it's the opportunity. So you see that you find teams, you find people like you that wanted to spend time doing the same kind of stuff and wanted to put love down doing this. So it's the team kind of situation. We start talking about theater. I'm coming back into the team kind of situation, right? In theater, there's always a teamwork, and this is something that I really love about working in theater. Umbrella House is the kind of a space where people build their own place, where people work, fix, get the space up to date in a really good conditions, and then after they can call it home, which is the most important part, because in New York, it's pretty rough to get a decent place.
Well, but you're very honest, and tell me, well, I arrived, or you tell us I arrived a little bit after the epic had started. And yet, I just wanted to touch base on the fact that, did you know that there had been all this Colombian sweat equity? Did that attract you, or is it something you discovered? A pleasant discovery, I might think. I mean, it's, for example, like the Clemente Sotoveles, this Puerto Rican Ed Vega, had that concept here at Latea. I'm very, very honored that Marta Garcia, also a Puerto Rican woman, is intimately involved, even though the founders are a Dominican, an Uruguayan, and an Ecuadorian. But still, did you know about that Colombian sort of placemaking, or did you discover it after the fact?
It's funny. Yes, we are many Colombians in Umbrella Houses and in the neighborhood as well. You probably witnessed that also. As many as people you named before that you were friends of you.
The poet, el poeta estaba allá, Tata, whatever. All this a very warm and giving and also highly intellectual, resourceful, artistic community. So did you know about it and that brought you to Umbrella, or did you happen upon Umbrella and then you discovered that richness?
I pretty much realized that richness when I went to Umbrella for first time. Okay. I came through a Colombian, yes, not a Colombian ex-member of the house, and he was working in the same restaurant I was working at that time. I was, being a restaurant student at the same time, and he brought me over. He rented a room, a small room that he had, and then I get to realize like where I was really into, and it was really good. The community was pretty strong. They met every month. I was amazed by how they took decisions, and I was pretty much with him for about 4 years. I was his roommate, and then a vacant apartment became available out of the nothing. This is kind of the luck that I was talking about, Miguel.
It's a New York story. This is our New York story, right? Yes.
I put myself on the list, right? There were more people, but I had the fortune of knowing almost everyone and had a good relation with everyone. Plus, Miguel, it's funny, but when you're in a place when there's no super and no person who's, especially responsible for things, Well, you see that the hallway might be too dirty. You just take a broom and do something, right? And people were just like, oh, thank you very much. Thank you. I'm like, well, this is where I am actually walking every single day. So I think all those things that they saw that I wanted to be part of it somehow, allow me or open the door for me, because at the end, they select me out of a pool of people that interviewed before. So I was really happy.
And this was, which brings us back, that was a very important parenthesis, because we believe in this organic community where we do art, we work, we live. And this is at the time of the City Tech, of your City Tech training, right? Or no? Yes.
Correct.
So how about, I mean, I feel that that's part of the kinship. I mentioned at the beginning, I have my MFA from CUNY, from Hunter. I teach at Baruch, and you were trained at City Tech, and you teach at City Tech. So let's start with the student years. How was that? How was that experience?
No, first of all, then I didn't graduate from Colombia because I came to study English before, but I love this career so much, I ended up transferring all my credits and trying to finish here. So when I came as a student, because it was hard for me just to get everything together, right? You come to a new city, it's New York, it's big, it's expensive, it's difficult. It's great also, it has many opportunities.
But overwhelming, but it can be overwhelming.
Very overwhelming, right? So CUNY was my first option, and I'm always going to be thankful to CUNY. And it was kind of the only chance I had to keep going with, with something that it wasn't going to cost me a fortune of maybe money that I didn't have really. So CUNY has this excellent program, entertainment technology. And I was like, wait a minute, entertainment technology, this seems like a really good base of a program for an artistic future, let's say. If I have this base, this background, technical base, maybe I can use my design skills in a better way. So I just signed up for the career. I transferred some classes. Like
and the career, is it a BA, BFA, MFA? What is the degree, and is it terminal? What degree is it?
Yes, it's a BT. It's a Bachelor in Technology.
Okay, great.
Right. And it's entertainment technology, pretty much the name of the department. You can focus on different tracks. There's audio, there's scenery, there's show control. I am a visual guy. I just like to work with that kind of environment. So I always knew that I was going to go for lighting. So I just focused myself into lighting. I did the best I could, being the second university you do, being the second career you do, well, you take things very serious, right? You're spending your money, you want to make that money worth. So I was a good student. I got along with the professors so much that the director of the program, the same year I graduated, he's like, you want to try to teach a class? And
I was God. What year was this? What year in the
2012.
2012, okay.
Right. And I was just like, I didn't know what to say. I was like, yes, but I had no idea how. I mean, I have no experience teaching. Maybe I do, but not as sufficient maybe. He's like, I'm very convinced you can do this. And you're showing through your, academic years that you're able to do it. So let's give it a try. I took the challenge, and look, 7 years after, I'm here now teaching lighting design. I didn't start as a lighting designer. My mentor, Professor Chipscott, was sort of like the coordinator of the lighting part of the program. We got along really well. He saw that I really wanted to do this, and he helped me a lot to get where I am. Of course, the rest of the department were very sympathetic as far as the strength, the force that I wanted to show, that how much I appreciate being there and being part of the department. So I think everyone is being very helpful. And that was my jump. I know you asked me for my university years, but that was the jump between being a student and then being a professor. Right away, you graduated, and next semester.
There was no jump. It was just, but again, I think that's one of the remarkable things about CUNY, for example. So we talked about an education, like you said, you were in a position to be a professional student because you already had a certain maturity. You had already done something else. So you're coming with a focus. You realize the value that implicit in a CUNY education. It's excellent and it's affordable. Then we're talking about mentorship. Then they pick you I had somewhat of a similar experience, except they took 10 years to pick me to teach, but whatever. So then you go, they mentor you because it's that, oh my God, now I'm teaching. It's a different animal. You know, when you're a student, for all the demands that you and I place on our crews, I mean, the student can disappear and it's their loss. But if you as a professor disappear, it's all sorts of alarms go off and this and that. So then they mentor you, and now you are, you know, an adjunct, someone that's training other people. Wow, what an incredible story from the City Tech angle. Now tell me about you know, let's talk now about giving in kind. Now you are the professor. Now you might be mentoring, and I know for a fact that you're bringing all these people, some amazing assistants and people from City Tech. So let's talk about that.
I guess it comes, Miguel, from the same situation I faced before. Like I, was happy, and I think many artists and many, people in their own, work fields will benefit from getting a mentor or from someone who's mentored them. What I mean by mentoring is not only that they teach the basics, but mostly the experience, how they know how operate within the business, within the field. So I kind of like emulating from that, happened to be a professor, happened to be teaching lighting design, which is something that I love. And also always keep my eyes open for people who also feels visual, who also feels that they can, just jump into the lighting design world and of course, make themselves designers. So I started to, just pretty much exactly that, focusing on people who looks like they really wanted to do this. I picked them. I'm happy also to be here at Latea because it's a theatrical space, because we have the materials we need to practice, to learn more, to project whatever we learn on actual productions. So use the space. You ask people, hey, I'm noticing that you're doing pretty good on my class. Are you really interested in this? Is this something that you want to do for good? Yes, I'm positive, Miguel. I wanted to take a chance being a designer. And so then I will, try to kind of like get closer to a person, bring it over to Latea, introduce them to the team here. If it's not in an internship, which I'm trying to put together also, it's maybe just like come work with me, maybe assist me for a couple shows, know the system here, because every theater has a different system. And then based on that, show me that you can, and let's get you practicing. That's the main idea.
And I know you've brought students from all over. I've seen you bring some amazing assistants, as it were, or interns, whatever we want to call them. But what about you and I are Latinos? So are there a lot of Latinos doing lighting design or the technical aspects of theater at City Tech, in your opinion, or you think it's a few, it's a small group?
My classes are mostly very mixed, really. But there's a
CUNY, though. That's beautiful, right?
I was gonna go there.
India, Europe, North America, and the United States, Canada. I mean, it's so amazing that way.
Right. So it's mixed. But they are a big component, Latin component. Either they're Latin background, or they also moved to the States afterwards. So Latea being a space mostly dedicated to Latin American culture and present and showcase artists that are somehow related to Latin background. I like to bring them over if they speak Spanish right away. I like to also explore not only the technicalities of being a designer, but also being part of a team who's putting a production that kind of like calls into their roots, because somehow they're also connected to the Latin community as well.
And Miguel, this is going so fast. I love some of these tertulias because it just flows and it goes back and forth. And I wanted to, so for example, I've been an adjunct. I started doing visual arts at Hunter College thanks to an amazing mentor called Juan Sanchez, who's still there. I had a 15-year-old stretch adjuncting. And then at some point there, I started at Baruch. I'm at Baruch and not at Hunter. And, you know, whereas I miss teaching visual arts very much at Hunter, I'm very happy that the pandemic caught me doing Spanish at Baruch. Because it's, even though it's language, and there's like a challenge, I wonder how I would have taught visual arts at Hunter, you know, when there's not that contact right now. How are you teaching light design with this disconnect? If you could talk to us a little bit about that challenge of adjuncting for City Tech, teaching light design in pandemic times. What's your challenge right now?
Right. Well, multiple challenges, of course. They were welcome by March last year. They were welcome, and they were actually my plans. Sort of like, I've always feel like technology should, you know, embrace, support, enhance education. I think we should grab technology and use it out for our own purposes, and try to, of course, you know, improve the capacity we have to teach something. Teaching visual arts is, of course, difficult when you do it online. But I have to say that I will say maybe from 4 years to now, or maybe 5, if I'm not mistaken, there's been a huge amount of like content online that you can grab from. It's actually, most of the time, it's pretty open content. So I just wanted to emphasize in my classes the fact that I'm not want to be the only one who talks about a particular topic, that I want them to actually go and take a look at videos where they can see other people giving their criticism, giving their point of views, and also teaching the same things I'm teaching, so they don't have to listen everything from myself. So I encourage them to use what they have already, because they're pretty, you know, you probably notice also pretty sufficient taking a computer, going online, researching for something. Remember, you and me, we have to go to a library store. We have to go to, you know, a biblioteca and spend hours there trying to find something. Right now, you just have to take your computer, Google things up, and voila, you have 1,000 things that are related to it. So how do you canalize all that instead of me being like, oh my God, I can't be with them in the same place? Let me see what kind of resources there are now that they weren't there 2 years ago, that I can take, grab, maybe improve, maybe emulate those efforts and try to make my own too for my classes. But it's definitely something that I will help engage students with it. It's not ideal, Miguel, because...
Well, yeah, because I was going to say, I get all that, and especially if you're doing theory, like the history of Congo, or the history of Venezuela, or the history of Havana. Fine. I mean, the documents, and then we talk. With Spanish, it's a stretch because the aura, the contact, the back and forth. So I'm doing like this program with my students all the time, or it's very dynamic that way. But I'm talking about the hands-on, like on a visual studio class, touching, like I'm going around, they're drawing the model, the charcoal, the this, and I imagine it's that aspect of the class that I'm really curious about, the hands-on. I mean, on those classes where it's not theory, but hands-on, how do you grapple with hands-on for studio classes in the age of COVID? And I can't really come with it. I'm not doing it, so I'm not coming with my own solution. But I see, a disclaimer, Miguel is teaching a lot from Latea, which we are extremely proud and happy to support. So does that help, the fact that you're in a theater, or do you bring out the lights and say, listen, you know, how does it work?
Right. Well, first of all, my students, they're supposed to be senior students, so that's not the first time they touch an instrument. Of course, they can't touch it through the computer. But yes, that was one of the first things I thought. And that's when I came up to you and said, like, hey, Miguel, I'm thinking about I should be teaching from here. There's a space. There's this theater environment, which I don't want to, you know, be away from. It doesn't feel the same to be teaching a class like this from home. I know it's a commute. Look, it's raining. It's snowing outside. It's, you know, but it's nice. And for me, it's great. It's within the neighborhood, right? But there's just so much more, as you're saying, to gives me the ability of taking a fixture here, open it up, turn it on, show the things that it does. Maybe go slowly and showcase these things with them. And the second part is that we used to have, or we still have, a lab component on the class, which I usually have them working on class hands-on and maybe supervise them really, really close. Right now, it's a little bit looser. I have to assign things that they have to go home, and the supervision is mostly virtual. So I take their I take their work, I give them feedback, and then we establish a conversation. The only thing that I can say that it's improving thing is that through a virtual conversation and through Blackboard and virtual platforms like that, it's so much easier to get back and forth, to communicate. And I'm getting into really knowing Blackboard and taking advantage of all these feedback features that he has, that it will allow us to save some time and be on top of students as well.
So maybe with that and that note, let's move on quickly. Again, it's like we're always running against the clock, and it's so sad because these conversations are so. To me, they're inspiring. The people I meet, the people. I mean, I know you, but you know how your experience and your commitments come through. I wanted to touch base on maybe a project or two outside of Latea, recent memory, and a project or two from Latea, recent memory. What's something, I mean, I know you did celebrate Brooklyn. I know you've done Teatro Stage Festival. So I wondered if there's like a project that you would care to just briefly touch upon that was satisfactory, or more than satisfactory, that was, you know, something you're proud of. I don't know.
Sure. I think the biggest production I have going on, it's not in theaters, actually, it's a photo festival called Photoville. It's I've been working with them for over 4 or 5 years. We did it in LA. We've done it here during the fall season every year. We did it last year, despite being very difficult situation. We kind of like managed work it out together. What it is, I mainly design and build displays for the art to be set up on the streets. So there's got to be a good infrastructure for the signage, a good infrastructure for the pictures, for the art. We used to call it Photoville because it was all concentrated in Dumbo in a particular area. So it kind of felt like a little city full of like shipping containers. So we measure containers, we create there's no really light, or there's not really available public light in that particular area of Dumbo. I'm talking about right next to St. Anne's White House. So we provided power. So we do a lot over there, and the team is actually pretty good. We established a really good relation with the 3 founders, and then we'll keep in touch pretty much for all the things. You named Celebrate Brooklyn was a big one for me. I started as an intern.
Wait, was that was that Celebrate Brooklyn? You just mentioned something and I didn't catch the name.
Yeah, I mentioned right after Photoville, as you mentioned, CB, Celebrate Brooklyn, was one of the biggest shows that I also did. I had the chance to be the line director for a few years. I train and work with like a lot of really good people who came to join the team, who left after because their careers also took off. I'm happy to know that some of them are touring the world. And, music is also something that it really motivates you. So working for music and for a scenery outside, summer festival kind of situation is always really great. Really, really good memories, really good friends I've met, people that I keep connected with. You mentioned Teatro Stage Fest. That was a really good one too. So I'm trying to stay, of course, as you probably everyone here guesses, I'm trying to not focus in a single particular field within the field. So there's theater, of course, which I love doing. I'm here at Latea, we're getting proposals every day, things to do, how to work that out. I also work for Yati. So theater, I'm always going to be connected to theater. But meanwhile, photo festivals outside, things that you assemble, live there for a couple months, disassemble, you get a team together, you explain, you draw things, you planify. That's all, what I wanted to keep doing. I wanted to have different sources of work so that, they complement each other.
And how is the lighting design coming together for you with the film reality? Because right now, the new way of doing theater that Tatiana, Frank, and I have been talking about, which, I mean, it's like video, it's filming, it's trying to keep the stage in some sort of presence, even though we're dealing with the tools of film. And it seems to me, to people, that lighting is editing for theater. You know, like you turn the light on, that's like when you cut in the person walking in. Then you turn the light off, that's basically cutting the person out of the scene in film. And now they're coming together, or I've seen them kind of come together in a couple of productions. We've worked with Bruno on Ricardo Tercero. We've worked, with various folks. We also did the Medusa with Edu, and that was incredible. So if you could talk about one recent post-COVID, like COVID era production where we didn't have the audience, we had to shoot it, we had to edit it. Which one did you feel most, that you related to the most in terms of working the lights for that? Because you've done quite, and then there's the concerts, the Jazzmen, Miguel Zenon and his crew. What strikes your fancy? I know they're all yours. They're all yours, and I love all of them, but still, just, yeah.
Right. Well, maybe I was very into thanks to also what was happening here, and at the same time happening when in my class. I was lucky to relate a couple projects together. So we did Aranjuelo. We actually record one of his shows.
So the music shows.
Yes, the
We're
music
about
show.
to launch. They haven't come out. We're about to launch the music, like the 2-person musical ensemble, like with Aranjuelos.
Right. There were 3 people actually. There were a pianist, it was a drummer, and it was Aranjuelo playing the guitar, of course.
Coming soon.
Yeah. So Rodrigo is pretty cool. I mean, I have to say that something that relates to all the projects here is there's a lot of freedom for creativity, and it's a place where I feel like I can experiment, and I think that's the deal. Maybe just focusing a little bit on what you were pointing out. Yes, there was a challenge of making a theater look also or be sufficient to serve as a TV studio. I had some experience doing TV and video, so it felt like just appropriate to apply to that experience here. I know the levels are different. I know that cameras don't see in the same way we see things. I know we don't have an audience, so it feels different. Not sure if it's the same, if it's worse or better. All that I know is that always theater adjusts, right? Adjust to what's going on. If this is what's going on, this is what we need to go right now, then we'll do it. And then I see people, with the same passion trying to make it happen, even though there's an audience who might be very, very far away. So we lose that fourth wall kind of thing. But hey, it's been working, and I think it's also a really good outcome. It's been happening. So it's just a matter of continuing the situation. I really know where we exactly going, but I know we want to try to improve the quality of the things we do every time we commit to a new project.
And Miguel, to finish this magnificent tertulia, thank you for your time. If you could comment briefly, what then is our position, our situations, Latinos backstage working on lights, on scene design, on, a lot of times, and this is true for most art forms, everybody wants to be an artist, or many people do. I don't presume that everybody does. Everybody wants to be in front of the camera. Everybody wants to be the painter. And yet, it seems to me sometimes the money or the livelihood, not really money, the livelihood really happens to those that are behind the scenes, that sell the art supplies or that make the canvases, that set up the lights, so that a lot of Latinos, immigrants, we come here. There might not be a trajectory of art in the family, and everybody needs all hands on deck, to make a livelihood for the family and for the future. But so theater but we're artistic, and sometimes these jobs, behind the scenes can be a boon because we can be around arts, but at the same time we can make a livelihood, which might not happen if you're the painter or the aspiring actor or or it happens more often, let's say, because you provide this sort of basis in which the other people stand on. So how do you see the place of Latinos in backstage, in the kind of design that you carry out?
Right. I think everything that involves creativity can benefit from you having an extensive background. If you have a different cultural background that can come with you, that can add something to the production, that can benefit from multicultural information, that's theater. So now that you're close by.
Hello, hey, here we are in Latea. I mean, we're only doing this because this is El Teatro Latea, a candid conversation with the master of the lights here in the theater, Miguel Valderrama. And maybe, Miguel, we'll finish with some words of hope for, what do you see? What's hopeful? This is a very dark time for a lot of people and a very uncertain time for many people. And yet we're teaching, we're doing some shows virtually. I would like to leave people with some hope from Miguel Valderrama.
Sure. I mean, theater has been out for, centuries, from the Greeks. This is not the first pandemic situation we have. We'll go through this. We have better chances of going through this faster than before. Theater has never died and it will never die. There's something about being in the same place with people, performing, creating art, transmitting information, transmitting a message that will never be replaced in the way that theater projected. So it's a matter of time. I know people are going to theater are making huge efforts to try to stay alive. So if we can kind of weather this out for a few more months, I think we want to get back to business as soon as next year. And hopefully we want to have a lot of eagerness to do more, to do better, to improve things, and to take advantage of what we have. Because in this kind of situations is when you realize that you have a lot of options to do, and that you have to take advantage of all of them. Thanks for also having me here, Miguel. It's been a pleasure. It's like always, every time I step into this theater, it's been a pleasure to work along with you in all these productions as well.
Viva el teatro y viva la tea.
Que viva, que viva.